Okay, everyone. I'm so excited to introduce Varun Sharma. He is the CEO and co-founder, along with his brother Arnav, of Interpret. Thanks for being here, Varun.
Yeah, of course, Akash.
Can you share the story of how Interpret got started? What inspired you to focus on customer feedback analytics in this space?
Back in 2015, I was lucky enough to be joined as one of the earliest employees of this company called Amplitude Analytics, which is a very popular product analytics company. So I think we were like 15 people when I joined. I was like, and got a chance to do like a lot of like analytical deployments for all sorts of companies, from like small consumer applications like back in the day like QuizUp to like very large scale companies, like the first cohort of enterprise accounts that Amplitude got, like Atlassian, HubSpot, Disney, so on and so forth. And I think over the time I learned like about how different teams in different industries and different sizes were using product analytics to track all the metrics that matter, like around like how do they track retention, depending on the category, what conversion funnels they track, but also what was not working, which is like everyone knew what is happening in the product, but why something is happening, like people didn't really quite know confidently. And even internally at Amplitude, as our business scale, like we were a very deeply analytical company, but like no one had a confident understanding of like what are the needs of enterprise customers and how they're different from like mid-market customers or customers on a free plan. Like there was like no confident way of like knowing that across the board for us. So I always saw this as an opportunity that like people know what is happening, but you ask them a simple question, what are your top three customer pain points for the last 6 months, and no one knows the right answer. They just start making stuff up on the fly. So it was like it was both sad and funny at the same time, I would say. And I felt it was like this was a global problem across everyone, I've noticed. So um, and then I joined this company, Scale AI, where I was doing like CS for emerging verticals. Emerging at that time was NLP, so working a couple of like really big like tech companies on a few NLP projects. I thought the tech was very cool, and what they were doing. So saw an opportunity to basically combine the two things of like, hey, this tech is getting very cool. Can we use this to build the missing brain of product analytics, which is like build a qualitative uh, analytics as well to understand like why things are happening within your product or customer experience.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So there's a lot of companies that are within that higher level framing of like the why. In the last company deep dive we did Dovetail, and they're really targeting the UXR. They're really helping those user researchers run their surveys, do their diary studies. And then they've recently released a product called Channels, which is sort of a competitor to you guys, a little bit less heavy on the NLP specific model, which you guys are creating, and a little bit more just on like organizing the information. But there are other companies within this space. So how did you decide like this specific area is the first space we're going to carve out? How did you come up with, your initial product?
Yeah, and I think it's first of all, it's great to see a lot of new startups, but also like slightly older companies expand into this use case. I think in the post Chat GPT world, like everyone is beginning to realize that the most valuable data set for any business that is like totally untapped are customer interactions, and they are like so people who pay the bills for your business and you depend on them falling in love with your product every single month to both in consumer and like B2B environment to like to keep getting the recurring revenue. And they're telling exactly what they like, what they don't like, what their aspirations, what their hopes are, how they want to use the product, but they're not able to in 10 different channels. And like like almost every company on the planet uh, suffers from not being able to like really leverage the power of that data set, because like sitting in like 10 different silos rotting away, honestly. So a lot of companies like trying to take a stab at that and solve it like in some different way or shape or format, so it's great to see. I think for us, like the objective was always very focused. It's like you should be able to write a SQL query on your customer feedback, like so anything, like that's the whole thing. It's like, can you convert uh, unstructured customer interactions in any format, any modality. So whether it's like a survey, or a Zendesk ticket, or a Reddit thread, or a Gong call, or a Slack message, right, or an App Store review, doesn't matter. From any channel, any format, can you do data modeling and convert that into like a time series format into one single database? But then on top of that, create the customer specific AI models, which are fine tuned to each company's domain, and tag all sources with one global unified feedback taxonomy. and then enrich it with metadata about like who the user is, how much are they paying, how long they've been using the product, and create this like really powerful live adaptive data set on which you can do any SQL type analysis. And I think if we can do and maintain that, then it really enables businesses to like build, do like serve their customers better, like build better product experiences, or automatically detect anomalies in the system, whatever is happening. So, and we believe like creating and managing the data set is the most important thing. So we've been very focused on that one thing, solving that thing, which is like how do you create a valuable unified database of all customer interactions and tag it with a custom valuable unified schema for of those interactions, which is only tailored for that one particular business, but do it repeatably for all of our customers. So
Yep.
we really narrow down on what is the best approach to solve it. If time and resources were infinite, how would we do it for anyone? And then we did that. And then we've been trying to figure out, okay, how do you do it repeatably and fast for now many companies after that in the last 4 years?
Yeah. There are a lot of startup founders who read the newsletter and they especially love these deep dives. And the question they always have is like, how do you have this conviction in that solution? Like what you've defined, it's basically, the unique cues and chatter mills, they might be like on the peripheries of that, but they're not exactly that
Mm-hmm.
solution. But it seems like you've had 100% level conviction essentially on this North Star from the get go. How did you build that conviction and know that? I believe Notion was your first customer. Was it part of co creating that vision with Notion and them helping you validate it? Or how did you really develop this certainty?
I think conviction strengthens over time with battle scars. Like, so you try a lot of things and you're like, well, this definitely works, or double down. Oh, this other thing definitely does not work. Never do this again. So I think that's the right answer is like, your conviction strengthens over time. And, and for us, like, for a company which is saying that, hey, you got to like listen to customer feedback to continue building a better product. We've tried to like live that mantra from day one. It's like we had a, uh, we were very focused on the problem, which is like, hey, this is how we want to be able to solve, but we were flexible on the solutions of like our approach to it. What else can we do? We prioritize first. How do we approach it? What is the right way to do it? What trade-offs can we make? So we've been flexible on the approach solution to it based on our customers' feedback that we were seeing more traction with and whose vision resonated with what we wanted the world to look like. So yeah, of course, we're grateful to have like Notion, Canva, Atlassian, like all of these as like our customers, and we have like some like consumer companies like Strava, etc., as customers. So every single company, every single use case, we've learned better about like what else we can do to serve them, and I think they have played a huge role in helping crystallize our approach to the solution over time, and teaching us a lot of things that we ourselves were not confident when we started, right? So I think. Keep your ear to the market, man. Like don't be like don't be hard nosed about it. Like be flexible. Be set in stone about your vision, but about the paths to the road to take and where to take a right turn, where to a left turn. Be flexible on those things.
Yeah. Are there any examples from like the early 2 to 3 customers where you changed kind of your approach on the solution?
Yeah, I think so. When we came out of stealth, like it's funny. We were having like the first set of customers were like, uh, "Hey, this is all great. Can I just want to learn why we're losing deals? Like why what's happening in sales calls, right? And this came up like, wow, okay, so like it's great. You can analyze surveys, you can analyze support tickets, and but we still like yeah we can do this better. But like you still have support agents tagging them with surveys, and you still do that. But this like really massive, complex, but extremely valuable corpus of prospect conversations where they're telling us their use cases, their feature requests, like who else are they evaluating? They're not. We have just no idea what to do there, right? And I think that was something we hope to accomplish that like a few years down the road, if I'm being honest. But we felt such a strong pull for that. We're like, okay, let's just do it right now. So we pulled that forward almost immediately. Like we just saw such a strong resonance of like analyzing sales conversations, and then we launched our Gong integration 2 years ago. Honestly, like I think probably on the first solution to have like a native Gong integration for like automated like feedback analysis, tagged the same schema as everything else. You can play audio within Enterpret and all those things we launched. And that was mostly from like the conversation that we're having with our customers, and it's been great to see that. Like so that was definitely one of the earliest examples of that. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. So the vision, it sounds like the part that maybe was stable was a SQL query on your important qualitative data and being the qualitative companion to an amplitude. But the part where you've been a lot more flexible is like, what data are we looking at? How are we
Yep.
analyzing it, tagging it, those types of things.
Yes. And what else can we enrich it with? So we are now enriching your customer interactions not only with metadata that's captured along with the feedback that hey, this is the prospect, all of that, but also enriching it with like a third party source, like you have data, and we do this customers like Apollo.io, which is like maintaining a live sync between your central Snowflake, which has all revenue data as well. So you can say, show me all complaints by revenue. Now you're not tracking revenue in Zendesk or Gongcall, right? Like all of all accounts, number of seats, etc. So you can see people who've complained about like slow browser speed, for example, on Chrome, like what typically what are the average number of seats they have and things like that. So you can do like impact analysis as well, and that's again we've tried to enrich and bring in a lot of context about like what happens if you don't fix this, or what trade-offs can you make besides just a number of mentions as well. So same with like we have integration with Amplitude and mixed panel, so you can define a behavioral cohort and say power users versus casual users and see how does their feedback differ between power users and casual users, and see like what, and then you can join the quant and the qual for more holistic analysis. Our customers are doing that as well. So yeah, we're fixing the vision for that, and then we say, hey, how do we make the analysis more impactful, more actionable? We've been trying to like explore more and more ways for that.
Awesome. So that was a lot on the story. We used up almost half our time. So I want to move now to your go to market, which I think is pretty interesting because your ICP, I would say, includes for sure PLG companies. But actually, you are not necessarily so PLG. There's no way for me as a user to just sign up for Interpret and just start using it. The pricing, I need to fill out a form in order to talk to sales. So it's really more of a sales led company, I would say, in that respect. How did you kind of land on that model for Interpret?
Yeah, great question. And that was because it was dialed in because of our approach to the solution. Like the go-to market was dictated. So our approach solution was like, we want to build like custom fine-tuned models for every single company that we operate, and we want to like make sure those are adaptive and they're built just for them with their feedback. And that is the best way to solve this problem. And we want to do it. This is how we're going to operate, build that right. Now to do that, like obviously we need to talk to the customer, understand their needs, their frustrations, what channels they have, all of that. So we need to go through this process, and also we need like certain amount of like dollar size and certain amount of volume to understand, hey, if we're going to build you custom AI models and make sure that they're evolving over time, we're going to do all of this. Like there is a real partnership to be had, right? There's a problem to be solved, right? It's worth it. So the PLG motion doesn't lend itself to like that detailed conversations and that deep qualification to deploy custom models for everyone at scale. So it was because of that. Like, hey, our approach to the solution dictated our approach to the go to market. For us. But this not to say that in the future we may not have some sort of like a PLG motion. But for now, focused type execution, and we just focused on landing, fast scaling like upper mid market and enterprise companies both on the B2B and consumer side.
So with that go to market motion, there's typically different ways people are acquiring customers, like outbound SDR, sending emails, doing phone calls, inbound with content, which we see a lot of you guys advertising in newsletters. There's SEO. There's so many different channels that you of course know about. What channels have been the most effective for you guys?
We have seen success in both inbound and outbound. So, just to take a step back, we are in a problem aware, solution unaware space. People are aware that they have this problem, and I think since the ChatGPT moment, they also believe, hey, maybe AI can do this thing, and we want to solve this problem. Like, hey, can we get better at doing this thing, right? Like, why this is 2024? Why are we struggling with like manual feedback analysis and like slow feedback loops? So what that means is like if we're in a problem aware, solution unaware, you just need to get the word of your solution to like to the right audience as much as possible, right? So like where do people who feel this pain, where do they live? Like what newsletters are there? What content they listen to? What else are they searching on the internet that we should they search for this particular term? They should definitely hear about Interpret. And then we do some outbound as well. And when we do our outbound, we do like some custom looms. In certain cases, like we will just create an instance of the public feedback. We'll actually scrape in like App Store, Play Store reviews, some feedback on Twitter and Reddit, build a model for them. And as you can see in some of our content, we actually write some about some of that. But we also outbound with them. Hey, looking at your public feedback, here's what we're noticing in the last like 3 months. Like, does this resonate? And a lot of times we hear back, oh yeah, this actually does resonate. Can you do this for my Zendesk tickets and my Gong calls? I'm like, yeah, let's talk. So we lead with value in that, and I think that's something special about a category, that we can do like a permissionless proof of concept, basically, right? Like when we want to build a custom model for them, if we choose to lead with value and on real data set, which just happens to be public because we're analyzing customer feedback, um, and then use that to gauge interest for like a full engagement.
Yeah, that makes sense why outbound actually works for you guys because you're not just sending some message like, "Hey, you raised money, you probably need a task management tool." You're developing
Yeah.
specific value for them, you're creating a loom. So it sounds like it's more of an account-based marketing approach where you have target accounts that you're then
Yes,
investing in.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. It's an account-based marketing. That's your most important. You did very briefly mention SEO. How important is that in the overall scheme of things?
SEO is definitely, I think, important in the fullness of time. Like you want to own the keywords that what people are searching for and finding that. And I think, but we've also learned that it's not a toggle that you turn overnight and you just become good at SEO. It's like a bit of a slow burn. You got to like discipline and practice for multiple years to get good at SEO and like acquire real domain authority. So we're slowly practicing that intentionally and just getting better at that. Because I think that's like a lot of alpha lies in organic SEO traffic, right? Like that's where like you can find a lot of interesting opportunities that even you may not be aware of, right? That your ABM windows there, but the unknown deals are from the organic inbound traffic, and you don't want to make sure you're continuously getting better at that.
Yep. Makes sense. All right, final topic, product development. So the other big reader group of the newsletter is PMs. So we've already talked with Vivek, we've talked with Arnav. So we have some sense like
Hmm.
uh, you guys follow a lot of the linear method. You and Arnav write like a quarterly sort of retro,
Yep.
and you help identify like the quarterly goals for the team. So I'm curious, on top of that, what do you feel like is sort of the unique texture or sauce from your point of view that you're contributing to the product development process, in order to make sure you're building the right things at the right
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the whole ball game, right? Like, like what we help our customers also do. So I think the fun story is like when we started Enterpret, I was actually the head of product because I was like, and then within a couple of months, I was like, yeah, and Arnav would come prepared asking me very good questions. Why are we building this? What are the trade-offs we're making? All of that. And I realized I had not deeply thought about a lot of those things. And like, you know what? You should do this thing, man. I'm going to do sales. Like, like I'll so because I'm more pro risk, I just want to try things for the sake of trying. Let's just see how it goes, which works in like sales and go to market, but not so much in product development. And so I quickly learned my lessons within like 3 months. I'm like, okay, you do this thing now. Or if you're asking such good questions, so I stepped away from that. But I think one of the things that we have anchored on is a few things which I've learned like from previous like things. Like one is like you know dollars follow pain. So I think one of our operating principles is solve customer pain. So we're always thinking about what is the biggest collective customer pain that we could be solving, which aligns with the vision of our business. Um, and we don't shy away from that. We chase that. We chase like what are that gnarly pain point that we can really solve. Because we can solve that. That's how we deliver value to our customers. And if you're that delivering value in something that's really, really painful, but appreciated by our customers, and that's a leading indicator of like the revenue we're going to make the next year or the 6 months after that. So that is one of our philosophies. Second is like we have a very good like and I almost to a fault like a culture of like retro where we like really try to honestly reflect on things that went bad, and we can do that. And uh, if there's an opportunity to learn something from something that went bad, we try not to miss that opportunity, right? So, and with the intention that you should never repeat the same mistake twice. But it's also not punitive. It's not like a fault that you. It's like, so we do like blameless retros, but we're very transparent and honest about that things that didn't go well. We share it with everyone, making sure that if someone makes a mistake, if something went bad, the entire company will learn the lesson from it, and collectively, as a company, we're making that one mistake at least once and not multiple times. No matter where it originated from, that doesn't really matter. So I think those two things. And the third is like just being like fast paced and detail oriented. I think a lot of startups came like talk about like speed and velocity, and like you like that is the only advantage you have in early stage startups. So you want to be mindful of that. What is the right velocity changes over time as your business scales and gets more complicated. So, but you should never lose that mindset of are we moving as fast as possible. But at the same time, like moving fast is not an excuse for like losing attention to detail, right? So you want to challenge yourself and like having the right amount of details as well, without over-indexing on on one thing or the other. We're trying to get details, so we want to move slow, or you want to be fast-paced, get detail oriented at the same time. So I think that's what we've tried to intentionally anchor on. It's like solve customer pain, like don't shy away from it, chase that, blameless retros, and then be fast-paced yet detail oriented.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And one of the tensions that often exists in sales led orgs with empowered product teams is that the sales and marketing folks don't necessarily feel heard about everything, especially as you scale, maybe not at your point. I'm curious how you create sort of the connective tissue, just like your product tries to do, between like, these are why we're losing deals to like, this is the product roadmap.
Yeah, I think I do think you got to bring like I think like sub teams, like this culture of like this my team versus your team is like poisonous for companies in the long run. I think you just really intentionally try to avoid that. So how we do that is like we celebrate like all customer wins, and that would include like increase in retention or signing a new upsell across the company, and we appreciate everyone across the board for that. We bring in board people from all departments for that. Um, but at the same time, right, like you can only, you should optimize for the system, not a subsystem, right? So we optimize for what is right for enterprise, not what is right for marketing and what is right for sales. Like I don't really care, or what is right for engineering, I don't really care. It's like what is right for enterprise. Like, you got to keep the company first, and then make sure that the wins and the losses are both shared, right? I'm very foxy about like any finger pointing between departments and like like things like that. And then over time, I think I've seen that. And what you're saying is absolutely right. I think it does tend to happen at companies, especially when they start bringing in executives from bigger companies who are like become a little territorial and things like that. But that's when like founders and like early members of the company or like culture creators, they got to be like very very mindful of like making sure such mentality does not creep in, because it can be so dangerous.
Makes sense. Amazing. We covered a lot. The last question for you is specifically related to the product development. What are some mistakes or learnings you guys have had along the way?
Yeah. Uh, Stays in stealth maybe a little too long. Then we should have launched sooner. And like it's, I think when you launch, markets are real, man. When you start charging real dollars for it at scale, that's when you get the real feedback. And you can read all the books in the world, the mom's test and all of that, and make sure you have a very good design partner program. But it's not the same when you're in a gated like group of like 5 to 10 customers who are nice to you. So just get yourself out there. You're eventually gonna suffer for the few months like post launch. It's going to be real, but like might as well rip the bandit off and feel that pain sooner rather than later. So I think we probably like looking back like stealth a little too longer, like 6 months too long than we should have looking back. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all these insights.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Akash. Lovely to chat.